Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans Views. Apologies a bit late this morning, had an appointment that ran a couple of hours over the time limit that it was meant to, but anyway, it is what it is. The Celtic supporters, the fans collective, have put out another statement amidst the protests at the game at the weekend, and it says, one charlatan chairman, 2 incompetent executives, 7 unanswered questions, and 19 days of silence, 420 letter signatories, 3,000 late entries versus Kilmarnock, 5,000 holding posters versus Partick. The Celtic supporters is in united demand for answers, the campaign for change. How do you feel about that this morning? And I don't want to cause alarm, but it has been reported in the media, and some of the media are saying, look, the Celtic fan stuff, you're never going to get rid of these 2 guys. It's as simple as that. They will not be moved. And I think that, can the fans get real action, the kind of action that they desire? I don't really want to talk about this, to be honest, because we've got an important European game. And does it deflect? I know that has to be dealt with at some time, but does it deflect away from what is another important season? Every season's important for Celtic. Morning, Dexter, and morning to everyone in the chat. But when it comes down to it, we all want to, and we all agree on one thing. All we want to do is see Celtic winning. And I'm going to be honest, the statement that was put out, it does read a bit like a Green Brigade boys statement. And I don't want to see a split starting between fans. You know, there was a lot of fans, the majority of fans did hold up the banners, but anyway, they have put out the statement. And at the end of the day, the PLC aren't going to worry about what fans say. They haven't worried about us for long enough. And when you see the reaction of these 2 guys at the game at the weekend, where they knew that the placards were coming out, and what's the first thing they do? Just pretend you're texting your missus. You don't give a fuck. It's time enough to swear, but they don't. Anyway, in more Celtic news, there are articles starting to say that the protests involve late arrivals, posters, banners, open criticism to Peter Lawwell and the executive team. Yet the Celtic supporters demand a boycott. Now, Celtic this morning have put out a UEFA Europa single match tickets on sales to season ticket holders, to all those ones that didn't buy tickets. Yeah, when you go into the Celtic website and you go into the tickets, you can see that there's tens of thousands of tickets sitting available. Celtic match tickets for UEFA Europa Home League games are on sale to season ticket holders now. If you haven't purchased the 4-match package, you can now take your pick of individual games. The boys will face Braga, Sturm Graz, Roma, Utrecht at Celtic Park, and they really need your support. They need your support. Playing on the heartstrings of fans. Back the team. Back the team. As they fight for their next place in the round of the UEFA Europa League. Home fixtures are on the 2nd of October, 23rd of October, 11th of December and 29th of January. Prices are £39 for adults, £30 for concessions and £27 for under 13s. A £1.50 booking fee applies. The priority window for season ticket holders ends today at 2 p.m. Any remaining tickets will go on general sale to all supporters at 2:30. At 2:30 today, the Celtic website will crash, with thousands of fans going on to gloat and going on to see how many empty seats there are. Is Stephen Johnston in the house this morning? No. Let me just check. I'm just checking that everything's okay with Stephen. I know that he is going through some medical stuff, and I just hope everything's fine with him at the moment. But anyway, Celtic and the fans are obviously at odds with each other due to the fact that it was an unbelievably poor window. These two guys have accepted responsibility, but the Celtic fans want them moved out of their position. The fact that there are so many tickets available for the Champions, the fucking done it again, the Europa. The Europa games. Please remember, you now need a Celtic FC digital account, and you need to register for your digital account. I tried to go on last night, and I didn't. I've not changed to my digital account yet. I tried to sign in the old Celtic website, and it says no, you can't. You need to get all the information you need here. Friggin' nonsense. And you sign in for the e-ticketing. So anyway, I'll sort that out today. But Celtic have been reminded also that there's a ticket sanction comes in for the Premier Sports Cup after the pyro of last year. And the stadium was engulfed by smoke, and it was a strange day because it was probably one of the only days at Hampden that there was no wind and rain howling around Hampden to make the pyro go away. It was a very still day, and the pyro smoke just sat in the stadium. The game was delayed for 15 minutes, as we can all remind ourselves. There was a suspension and sanction of a reduction of 800 tickets in the Premier Sports Cups at Hampden. The initial for breaching the rules was an allocation reduction of 500 briefs. And Celtic and Sevco the Rangers have been hit with that. All they'll do is they'll expand the gap between the fans by 1,000 seats. You won't even notice it, to be honest. Whilst the media and that will make a big thing about it, you're not going to see it. A number of Celtic supporters have taken the decision to remove themselves from the home ticket scheme as protest at the club's direction under the current board. Hence the reason that there's no transparency to ticket allocations at the likes of games at Hampden, etc. It used to be the fact that if you're on the home ticket cup scheme, you were pretty much guaranteed a ticket for Hampden. There's a lot of negativity about this morning, which I don't like right before a European game. It won't affect the players or the team, because I think the players and the team are in a good place. Celtic have moved. Brendan Rodgers, for whatever reason, only known to himself, has decided to move on from the debacle of the transfer window, saying at the end, and I think the bigger question should be, why did Celtic edit out the last question of the press conference with Brendan Rodgers? Because if they're blatantly and obviously omitting certain things out of a press conference, and the wider media aren't reporting it, it took to a fan media to report that one of the questions was left out. Celtic were all about using the press conference and putting the press conference out first and in full, so that the fans could believe. And this is why it's important to take what happened with that media conference and put it in conjunction to what these two have been doing over the last couple of years at the club. Because Celtic the way that Celtic sold us, it was so that the truth would go out, so that it was reported in full, everything that was going on at Celtic. And Celtic's now in a dictatorship, and I'm going to say that, in a dictatorship where they are only putting out the questions that they want to be released to the wider Celtic fan base. Because I think Celtic power brokers, and I think Celtic PLC, think that, do you know what? These guys that are turning up from Celtic fan media aren't putting out everything the way that we would like it to be put out. Them asking awkward questions. Elites always try to control the narrative. Celtic fans are not stupid. Yeah, and that's Del Boy. That's exactly what it is. It is just the PLC. And I've deleted. I did this app from my phone. No more orders from them. No more windfalls from tickets. Until I'm happy that we're moving in the right direction. Dexter, what would be movement in the right direction? There's a lot of chat in the background that Peter Lawwell's about to retire for medical reasons. Would that all clubs are a dictatorship then, Baz, if that's your logic? Mo, come on mate, how many clubs, if Celtic when Celtic sold us the whole idea of fan media being brought into media conferences, for Celtic going down the narrative of putting out, we will put out the full press conference with the manager so that we know that the narrative has been told correctly. Because sometimes the mainstream media take snippets of a press conference and only put out that snippet and twist it for their own agenda. Aren't Celtic doing exactly what the mainstream media used to do by trying to change the narrative? They've kind of gone back on their words, and that's all that I'm trying to emphasise on it. Do you know? So that's all I'm trying to say. Is Celtic went into this with this, let's be open and honest and let the fans know all the truth. But then they start hiding it themselves. I'm only saying. But anyway, boils down to who sees us. Used to be just a full page of Celtic View. It's 2025. They should be more transparent. Yeah. Anyway, in other Celtic news, there's a lot of stuff going on about the protests. And I just think it's interesting. Getting back to the game, I think that Celtic go into the game tomorrow night. If you could ununify individual shareholders, they could have a voting block. If you could unify individual, yeah. Would that make such a difference though? Because you would have a voting block, but what would the voting block then be? Because I think that... Where is that question? No more strips or gash either. I hope to bump into Nicholson on tomorrow when we're on tour. Nah, you'll not get up to the offices, mate. He doesn't leave the offices. They've got us by the ball supporting the Celtic. Celtic is a devotion, not an option. And they know that. Yeah, pretty much so. Kaiser's in the house. One of us I see... Yeah, Gav boy, you don't get the discount. The discount was for buying the 4 tickets together. You're not going to get the individual. You're not going to get the discount on the individual tickets, and they'll see that as trying to motivate people to try and buy individual tickets. But anyway, is what it is. I think we'll see the real truth tonight. When we do the live tonight and when we go into the Celtic website, because I honestly think the Celtic website may crash today. When was that ticket from? God, there's an old season ticket, that one. It's an old season ticket, that one. Put it back up beside the rest. God, here's an even older one. Even older one. Anyway, right, we move on. Celtic will fly out this afternoon. There's a couple of my mates have flew out this morning already. For Celtic going to Belgrade to play Red Star Belgrade, it's going to be an interesting game because Celtic will want to get off to a complete flyer in the tournament. When you see some of the teams that we are playing in this, it's about, is it about proving a point? Is it about proving a point? I'm just trying to catch up on. I mean, there's a lot of people going on about Tenecti, and we could have got him in earlier. We couldn't have got him in earlier because his team were still aiming for a European spot. And if they had got their European spot, they might not have sold him at all. The only reason that they sold him is because they lost out on Europe. They were trying to keep him until they got into Europe. So, interesting, to say the least. Right, let's jump into some of the comments. Ticket Welk said won't crash. With me, I won't be on it, Baz. I think there will be a number of people just going on. It will probably be media people that will go on just to see how many Celtic fans have not bought tickets. We can still get behind the team. We can't stop now, regardless of how successful we are. Enough with the banners. We need to protest at the stadium because the media would see and the board. I think that if you want protesting at the games, I can understand, and people pay their money, and these are the people that go week in, week out. But do the Celtic fans collective need to have another agenda? Because just keeping on protesting that, will it really achieve anything? I mean, you've seen how the people upstairs that run the club, they don't care. You're just a paying customer. Maybe them not getting the revenue from ticket sales may give them a bit of a shock, but I think that the PLC have got enough in reserve to say, do you know what? They'll come back. They always do. Do you know, we'll take this year as a hit. We've taken many, many years, and this will play into the narrative. This is my fear, is that the narrative of the fans, we can play right into the narrative of the mindset of the board. Because the board go with the narrative of, right, we have these cash reserves for when we don't make the Champions League. We have these cash reserves so that when we don't get into the Champions League, we have the money to sustain us for another year, 2 years, till we get back into the Champions League. That's been the mindset of these people for years running the club. But thousands of fans not taking up the tickets, they will have factored that into their projections, their financial projections. They would factor a certain amount of fans not taking up tickets because they've got the historical data to show it. They've got the historical data going back 20 years to show that people don't turn up to the Europa as much as they do the Champions League. They don't buy the packages. So they'll play it out and they'll ride it out. People that are at the level of bores that these two guys are, do you know, they know that they can just hunker down and get on with it. Well, I mean, I've said it before, if there's one neck to be chopped and it is Lawwell, will that be enough to appease the fans? Do you know, if Celtic come out in a couple of weeks' time when they announce the AGM and it comes out that Peter Lawwell's going to retire before the AGM or at the AGM or whatever, would that be enough to appease the fans? So the Bards have no business model. They should become Champions League inaccessible Scottish. So it's a joke business model. They're blatant liars. Let's get a statement of a plan of the board that's needed. Who's identifying the areas of our club, especially the team? you're never going to get an open statement to the financial plan and business model of the club, because they will say, well, all that's in the documentation that was released for the financials on a yearly basis. Do you know, they're not going to sit down and go, right, next year we plan to... It would have been enough to appease the fans 8 seasons ago. Celtic boy, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. I think that must be a pillar cheapest ticket, £30. Flo goes, and then we don't. Then why don't we get Don McCann? That's never going to happen, Magnus. At this level, people don't go back to positions because they see it as a backward step. Do you know, Don Mackay would have been fantastic for Celtic, and he would have went on to bigger and better things. I mean, the fact that he left the Celtic job and walked straight into another job, these people are highly sought after within organisations that have work with big numbers. Do you know, he was never going to be shy of another post, hence the reason that he left Celtic and walked straight into another job. All the time we've been picking off but not payment enough, says Paul Baird. The Celtic media team needs to turn up its game and give the fans a better insight to the day-to-day life at the club. I would like to see, Big Des, I've said this for long enough, it's something that I would like. There is so much content that Celtic could put out. Now, even if they wanted to put it out, and we know that in the background we got this guy from Sky Television, a guy that wants to push as much content through the paid content corridor as we can. But what you can do is you can increase the level of free content, and this is how I would do it if I was Celtic PR. You would put out, say, a 5-minute video, and not them just coming out to walk into training. You would do, say, them arriving into the dressing, into the changing rooms, into the gym warm-up or whatever. Just a little bit, a day in the life type video. You know, you could do a day in the life type video each week, and that's one content box that you've got ticked off every week. It's an easy bit of content to do. You can do that on, say, the Monday, put it out on the Wednesday, if they need that much time to edit it, because seemingly they do at Celtic. You know, there's lots of easy content that you could put out, but then what you can do is you could put out a 5-minute segment on YouTube or the other social media platforms, but then you can also say there's an extended version when you go to the Celtic TV website, and then you get even more behind the, you know, you get people that are in the treatment room, you know, talking about them, following the treatment, following the fitness regimes. Do you know, there's lots of content. Do you know, it's a content man's dream, a football club, because there's something different happening. I know it's the same shit every day that the players go through, and players might think, fucking hate training. Do you know, it's a fucking ball ache. Same shit every fucking day. Getting pissed off with this shit. Do you know, maybe that's why people change zips. That's a new job for you. Not a chance. Celtic wouldn't employ me, and he couldn't afford me. Being perfectly honest. Not checked the odds yet, but 2-1 is decent. But anyway, yeah, there is, as far as Big Des says, he says the Celtic media team needs to up its game. I believe so too. I think that there is so much more to give. And when you look at some of the so-called bigger clubs, I mean, it's just non-stop. And it keeps fans engaged. It keeps them bringing them back. And it does grow the social media side of it. But, you know, the whole paid idea stuff, you could get more for your buck. You could get a lot more for your buck. Anyway, we move on. Far too much being made of Don Mackay. He done one presser. Yeah, he was kind of chased out of the door then, wasn't he? Because he wasn't of the set of cloth that this man was in. He was the snake. He was the snake. He was one that helped push. These two pushed Don Mackay out the door. by going behind Don Mackay's back, if you ask me. But anyway, that is it. So, are you looking forward to the game tonight? Celtic's Euro record cannot hide. Brendan Rodgers cannot hide behind his away Europe record. People will say, look, our away record with Brendan Rodgers and our away record in European football over the last 21 years hasn't been the best. Do you know, it's sad looking at how bad we've for all the domination that we've had in Scottish football. Our away record, our record of, the Green Brigade put out banners the other day of all the missed chances of getting into the Champions League over the years, due to the way that the people upstairs have held back cash, what it looks like to Celtic fans. But yeah, I think we're just going around in circles now with all this. And like I say, my biggest concern is that the message reality TV reality TV daft. And I don't watch telly, mate. To be perfectly honest, I don't watch telly at all. Just one of those things. Ask a business people to come on board with new ideas, just for law to spout out hundreds of ancient excuses. Why is it not possible? Why would you? I want to win, but I'm not up for Europa. Access to the showers? Nah, that's Neil Lennon's job, Mo. And if you want access to the showers, it says more about you and your thoughts on a Tuesday morning. Just saying. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. Sorry I was late this morning. And like I said, I had an appointment that kind of ran on a bit longer. I will be back tonight where we can get really excited. I can see that you're all buzzing for the European games. Anyway, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans. Same old live within our means excuse for 30 years now. But our means have expanded. And I think that this is what's really, you can live within your means. You can spend 20 million on a new facility, and then you can have an over-exuberant amount of cash sitting in the bank and not get players in quick enough. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.